So I talked to y'all about free radicals and what they are. Don't become a free radical practitioner. All right? Don't become a free radical practitioner or a person who practices free radicalism. Do not become that person. And really, really quick, our skin wrinkle, the reason our skin wrinkle is because of free radicals. And as I made mention in the previous video, every atom has what's called a valence electron. Go look it up. Valence electron has a certain, depending on the element that the atom constructs, has a specific amount of electrons. 5, 6. Carbon, I believe, is 6. I think. Don't quote me, but I think carbon is 6. But the point is, that's not necessary. That's not really important. I just threw that out there. I don't know why. But every atom has a set number of electrons. If it loses an electron, it becomes destabilized. Think about, apply that to you personally and to me personally. None of us don't want to be destabilized. You have a home, you have your children, you have your family, you have your money, your house, you have your assets in order. Nobody wants this destabilization. No one wants that. You have the federal funds, you have the feds that's responsible for the interest rates, the monetary policies of the United States, of the country. And their ultimate goal is to keep the economy stabilized. All right? They don't want it to overheat. They don't want it to become lackluster. They don't want it to become cold. So they pull the lever of the interest rates to make sure the macroeconomics, the overall economy is stabilized. If you're a man, you want your home to be stabilized. If you're a woman, you want your home. So stability is the ultimate goal of all of us. We all want stability. Nobody wants to be destabilized. That's a fact, right? Destabilization brings anxiety and all kind of mental and psychological and physical illnesses. So we all want to be stabilized. Well, the reason we all want to be stabilized is because within our DNA and within our system, that's the protocol, that's the template, that's how we're wired. Our atoms are wired to be stabilized. I mentioned this in the previous video. The ultimate goal of an atom is to seek stability. An atom attains its stability by bonding with other atoms. So they form a union, they get into relationships. They get into relationships, and out of those relationships comes me and you and I and you, this car I'm sitting in, and everything else in the world. The entire universe. Atoms makes everything. So, if you, like I said, look, and I would never tell people to stay unhappy or stay miserable. That's not what this video is about. I've walked away from relationships in the past. I've walked away from plenty in the past. I've had to call police to get, like, you know, order protections. Like, yo, stay away. You know what I mean? Like, stalkers. I've had them. It's not a cool thing when they're scratching up your car, and you know what I mean? I've been through some stuff. So I would never, you know, that's my credentials, I guess. Yeah, that's my credit. That's where I get my credibility to speak on stuff like this, because I've had my share, you know what I mean? My share of failures, right? Sometimes the best way to know how to succeed something is to fail. If you failed at something so much, you're probably good at it at some point. It's kind of like to catch a thief, you need a thief, right? Sometimes cops, they'll get a thief and they'll use that thief to catch another thief. They'll offer him some kind of, something like, we'll shave some time off of your sentence or whatever. And they use a thief to catch a thief. So sometimes if you're good at failing relationships, you might be good at telling people what not to do, right? In any event, so as I talked about the purpose of atoms, and if you're in a relationship and you want out, you have every right to be like that. I would never tell people to, but I will say this. Here's my honest advice. Everybody and anybody is replaceable. No one is exempt from that. We all can be replaced. Facts. So get off your high horse. I don't care how much money you got or how good you think you are. Anybody and everybody can be replaced. The question, though, is what are you being replaced by? Right? Because I could be replaced. You could be replaced. But the question is, what am I being replaced by? Right? Not all quality can be replaced. That's the distinction. Any body, And it's funny how the word, right? Let's play with some semantics for a minute. Any body, compound. It's a compound word. Any and body. So any body, y'all rocking with me? Stay with me literally here. Any body, my physical body, any physical body can be replaced, but not any soul or spirit or quality can be replaced. Huge distinction. So anybody, right, any physical body can be replaced, but not any quality or any substance. That's going to be hard to find. You dig? So let me get back to the free radical concept. So the point I'm trying to say though is, don't become a free radical, because when an atom loses, an atom needs a certain amount of electrons to be bonded. So let's say the number is 6. Let's just use 6. If for some reason, cellular damage, tissue damage, whatever, right? Some reason the atom loses an electron. It now has 5. It loses its ability to bond with other atoms, and it now becomes destabilized. It's a destabilized atom. And because it's destabilized, what happens now is, because it's destabilized, it goes around and tries to steal other atoms from, other electrons, because it needs 6, it has 5. It's going to steal an electron from its neighbor or its adjacent. The adjacent atom that has 6 or 7, whatever its number is, it's going to steal an electron. So let's say the neighbor, the adjacent atom needs 8. I need 6. I lost one for whatever reason. I'm going to steal one from my neighbor. My neighbor now no longer has 8. He has 7. I have my 6. I attain stability. My neighbor who has 7 is going to steal from his neighbor to attain his stability, because he needs 8 and I stole one. And then he's going to steal from his neighbor, and the cycle continues and it cascades, as I mentioned before. This is biology. And this ultimately, this destabilization of atoms is what causes our skin to wrinkle when we age, right? This is what makes us get old. This is how the aging process works. This is why our skin wrinkle. But the point I'm making is, though, if you're in your relationship and again, I do say, really contemplate what is happening in the relationship before you leave or before you jump out the window. Really contemplate, have what's called a presence of mind. Be in the moment. Consider what is really happening. Not what your emotions and your feelings are telling you, but what your rational, your logics, the world, the bigger picture. Because what happens is, look, any woman or man, when you hear a person say, oh, I know a few females, I ain't gonna call no names, but, oh, I don't need no man, bashing dudes, bashing. You're damn near 40 years old, or matter of fact, you're 40 or older, whatever, I don't know. But my thing, or late 30s, I don't know, whatever your age is, my thing is like, no, you need a man. You do. Everyone does. Again, we're atoms. We're wired to bond. So when you hear a woman say, oh, I'm independent, I'm strong, I don't need no man, it's like, no, you do need a man. You just can't maintain one, or you don't have the electrons needed to bond. You can't bond. You haven't learned. It's an art to bonding. Remember, an atom needs a certain amount of numbers of electrons to bond. That means a human being, you and I, need a certain set of mental faculties. We need a certain mindset to be able to bond. Bonding is a technique. Why you think so many people fail? Why you think so many people can't? Why you think so many people break up? We all go through it, myself included. Why? Because it is an art. It's a technique. And if we all knew how to do it, we'd all be bonded and happy ever after. But no, it's not. That's la la land. The reality is we don't do that. So my thing is, I wouldn't tell people to stay, but what I will say is consider really and truly and ignore the science to your own peril. Because once you do jump out the window, you become a free radical. And you enter into a different state in terms of wavelength, right? And the wave which you enter into, that's going to guide you. That's going to move you. You're now in that free radicalism zone. And a free radicals atom is a bitter, miserable, unhappy atom. That's why it steals from its neighbor. You become the homewrecker. You become the hater. You become the 40-year-old, 50, whatever-year-old woman talking about, I don't need no man. Man ain't shit, nigga. Yeah. Or you the dude who live with his mom and you damn near 40, 50 years old living with your mama. Bitter. Just bitter. Trying to destroy and hate on everybody else who you see out there working, hustling, pushing, fighting, doing what you can't do or what you fail to do because you're a free radical now. Your job is to go around and destabilize other happy atoms or other happy homes. But this is the science, y'all. So when you understand the science, I don't need to think if you're doing what I think you're doing. I don't need to question what your motives are because I know the science. I know the science. So the minute I see you make a move, I already know what you're doing. Nothing that come out of your mouth could convince me because I'm not dealing with you. I'm dealing with the scientific rule, that scientific law. I understand the entity that's motivating you. I understand the wavelength that's dictating your behavior. It's called behaviorism. I studied all of this. Classical conditioning. I studied all of this. Classical psychology. I studied all of this. So when you have this knowledge, when you understand the science, I'm not saying, again, don't stay and be unhappy and be miserable, but definitely understand what you're about to walk out of and walk into. What you're about to walk out of and walk into. And when you go into that state of free radicalism, it's not a good state to be in. Not a good state to be in. So weigh the pros, weigh the cons, weigh your, make sure you assess and evaluate. Sometimes a relationship just needs a fixer-upper. I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes it just needs a fixer-upper. Sometimes, I got a car that give me problems. Sometimes you just got to fix it up. And then sometimes you got to get rid of it. It's like, you know what? This is costing me too much. I got to get rid of you. But you got to really make a mature adult decision in terms of that. Because sometimes we give up on relationships that just needed a little boost. You know what I mean? A little kickstart, a little jump start, something like that. And it's good again. You know what I'm saying? Because look, the reality is this. Another thing about atoms. Atoms naturally settle in the infrared frequency. Infrared frequency is not the lowest, but it's very low energy. Very low energy frequency. So that means that we naturally, psychologically, with the exception of us being conscious of this and actively working to keep our energy on a higher wavelength or frequency or just a higher plane, naturally, human beings reside in a very low state of energy. That's why you think about it. But it makes sense. You go to work, you got kids, you got bills. We're constantly being bombarded by life. So it's natural that we fall into that slump. Most of us do that. So what that means, our body language, when you see a person's body language, their posture, if I can look at your posture, I'll know the wavelength you're in. Just by looking at your posture, looking at the way you talk, the way you move, like that tells me the wavelength you're in. Because your body is the outward expression of your inward environment. You dig? So that's very important to understand that we naturally, atoms on a microscopic subatomic scale naturally settles into infrared state. And I use infrared because that's the electromagnetic spectrum, infrared, which is a very, very low energy state. Very low energy state. People in that state are very negative, very, very nasty, very bitter, very sour. I've met so many of them. I'm sure you have. So beware of that, right? When you see that attitude, they're in that infrared state. Be very, very careful. All right. Guard your field. Okay. Ignore the science to your own peril and detriment. All right. So, like I said, this is not a video telling you to stay in misery. By no means am I saying, because I walked away a few times, several times. All right. So, but what I'm saying is know when, because like a game of poker, I'm not a poker player, but I know there's a rule in poker. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. But sometimes you can have a good hand and you fold because you thought your hand wasn't good, or you just realized that you had to play your cards a little better. Because sometimes you're giving you, again, I'm not a poker player, but I understand life and the rules and so on and so forth. Sometimes you're dealt a hand and you're like, okay, this is not the best hand. And you're right, it's not the best hand. But if you're a good poker player, you can still use that hand and skillful. If you're what's called ambidextrous, right? Both of your hemispheres, left and right, are skillful, right? So your dexterity, you're ambidextrous with the psychological, right? The intellectual dexterity. If you can still have a bad hand in life and win. That happens a lot of times. You can have a horrible hand and still play your cards and win. You can have a great hand and lose. You dig? So there's no ironclad set rule here. This is a template, a guideline, right? And you fill in according to your particular situation. But it's a guideline, and then you fill in the blanks with your particular situation. So sometimes your hand is not the best hand, and we throw in our cards and we give up, thinking we can go get a better hand. And like I said, now you're a free radical. And like I said, free radicals are bitter, nasty, envious, disgusting creatures, right? They're just like vile creatures. I mean, just completely vile. So don't be a free radical. Till next time, y'all know what I'm going to be doing. Cooking these books, chopping it up. No free radicals.